Hey guys, I'm finally going to talk to you about this book that I've been raving about on my channel for a while now, but I wanted to really have something to say. My favorite chapter in this book is called On the Enjoyment of Unpleasant Places. The chapter kind of found me at the right time because when I first moved to the Netherlands, I didn't even really fully consider it. I mean, I was applying to places in Rotterdam, but I wasn't really thinking I was gonna end up here. I really wanted to be in Utrecht. I just had the idea that I was gonna move to a small little street in the Netherlands in a really old pre-war building or something, but that was not the case. And at first I was really disappointed and I felt like I had failed. But I had really succeeded more than I ever could have anticipated. I mean, psychologists will tell you that moving is a traumatic experience, and I don't know, I fucking went through something cathartic when I first moved into this room. But we're over that now. And reading this chapter really resonated with me because of everything that I went through to make this place feel so beautiful to me, and why one day I'll be so sad to have to leave. But I'll know that there will be so many more beautiful places to live, so yeah. Anyway, this video is for people who want to know more about how to enjoy any place. I've got my notes on Obsidian here. It's so cute, you can customize the fonts and stuff and everything. It's so, I love it. I love it. It's like Notes app on steroids. It's amazing. Anyway, on the enjoyment of unpleasant places. So I have about 6 points that I'm going to go through. First of all, it's good to know that beauty is something that we seek. It's something that we want to see. If we don't want to see the beauty in things, then we just won't. And sometimes we get stuck in a spiral of not seeing the beauty in things. And I think it's good to check in with yourself sometimes and make sure, am I avoiding seeing the beauty in things? I don't know, maybe when you're in a fight with someone as well, maybe it's not even a place, maybe it's a person that is really annoying you. Are you really open to the fact that they have beauty? Or a place as well. When I'm hearing this siren right now. Oh, let me turn on my phone. Stevenson says on page 53 of An Apology for Idlers, we must set ourselves to hunt out beautiful things with all the ardor and patience of a botanist after a rye plant. Beauty is something we seek and we mindfully look for. I think a good practice is looking around when you're on a walk or just when you're outside and just making a mental note and really being present when you see something beautiful. Allow yourself to take it in. Stop and smell the roses, obviously. And if you really can't find anything beautiful about it, then maybe there's something weird or quirky. But I really think there's beauty everywhere, because I think I really believe that to every negative there's an equal opposite. So it's almost like when you're in a really tragic place, it's almost like you're more likely to find something even more beautiful. It's so tragic, and it's not necessarily good. Beautiful isn't even necessarily good, but maybe something that really shows humanity, like uncovering Anne Frank's diary and sharing that with the world. To appreciate something beautiful is not to neglect that there are bad things. Another point under that is that seeking beauty is also an action. It's something that you do, saying hello to your neighbors, or asking someone how they're doing, or listening attentively, or doing a favor for someone. Actions are beautiful, and maybe if there's not anything beautiful to look at, there's something beautiful you can do. If you live next to a littered ditch, then you can clean it up and maybe put some wildflowers in it. And just noticing the beautiful actions that other people do for you as well, if people are, and making sure that you're recognizing them and registering those beautiful things that people do for you. Have I registered that people have done beautiful things for me? People just showing up for you when you invite them over. Just people showing up for you is always a beautiful thing. So moving on to the next point. They all kind of intertwine, but this is kind of a different point. Be in the right spirit. On page 54, Stevenson says, nor does the scenery any more affect our thoughts than the thoughts affect the scenery. We are ourselves a term in the equation. a note of the chord and make discord or harmony almost at will. Being in the spirit to accept beautiful things, like they're seeking out beautiful things, but there's also just like being in the right mind, and maybe everything's going wrong for you and maybe everything is shit, but there's still like a spirit that you can find that wants to see beauty and that's open to seeing beauty. And in that spirit, they will show up for you. I guess it's kind of the opposite of seeking. It's just the waiting for it to come. It's like, it's almost the expectation that it's always around, being in the right spirit. Yeah, I don't know, I don't expect much in life, but I do expect beautiful things and I'm often not let down. On to the next point. Notice how your mood changes with the scenery and enjoy the transition. On page 54 of An Apology for Idlers, Stevenson says, "The man's fancies grow lighter as he comes out of the wood into a clearing." Sometimes just getting up and going to a different room can completely change your mood. Even just the slightest bit. Like, if I got up right now and went to the kitchen, there would be more light there. I don't know, it's brighter in there. It's nice. And you notice that it's brighter. Like, it's nice to notice the differences in the spaces that you enter and exit. Like, I think about being on the train and then finally getting to my destination and then exiting the station. And there's like fresh air and I'm like, oh my god, the world, I missed you. I'm coming off of the train, even though life's so beautiful on the train. But there's a peace that comes with going to the next place. And I think that progression just shows us that things move forward and, you know, life goes on. There's some kind of inherent peace in like getting to the next place. So I think that's always a good way to find beauty, is to just change your space, because then it inherently changes your perspective. I guess it's a part of why we love going on vacation, or a huge part of why I really wanted to come here from Canada, having grown up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and now living in Rotterdam. It's a huge shift, and it does help my mood to be somewhere that is unfamiliar and has a lot of contrast with what is normal for me. Next point, be creative. Stevenson says on page 54, I got a really good page in the book, page 54, "I have seen many a spot lit up at once with picturesque imaginations." It relates to the seeking beauty, and it relates to the being in the spirit of seeing beauty. So I think when we're in the spirit to see beauty and we're seeking it actively, I think we also end up in a headspace that can create much more, well, maybe not much more beautiful things, but that can create beautiful things. Maybe not more or less than when we're in other states, but it's definitely a good mood to be in to make things. So either once you're there or to help get yourself there, I think it helps to make something, even if you're just sitting around daydreaming, like that's being creative, or having a conversation with someone is creative, you know, talking, improvising with life, like just getting on your bike and going somewhere is creative. That, or more literally, like going and taking photos with a friend, or painting or drawing or planning an event, or sewing, making something with your hands, or like I was saying, seeking beauty is also an action, and I think being creative can also be one of those actions, but there's so much more to it sometimes. Yeah, okay, moving on. Know what you can't tolerate and spend time there. Of course, there's a limit. There's some places that are just really toxic for some people. Personally, I'm lucky I don't really have a place like that. There's not a place for me that I could go. Well, there definitely actually is. In the world that I've been, there's nowhere that I could go and never find beauty. But, I mean, I'm sure there exists a place where I can't see any beauty, but I don't know, there's so much beauty in my head. I don't think, like, there's so many beautiful things I could think of. I don't know, I feel like I could go to a really morbid place and I'd still feel like I see beauty somewhere. To be determined, though, so we'll see about that. But anyway, know what you can't tolerate and spend time there. on page 54 again. Really good on 54. Anyway, Stevenson says, I have rarely been able to visit in the proper spirit the wild and inhospitable places of our own highlands. I am happier where it is tame and feral.
Feral.
Tame and... I'm sure feral isn't how you pronounce this. F-E-R-I-L-E. Well, I don't know. And not readily pleased without trees. Now, in the book, you should read it. He describes this really good scene of like the wind just ripping your face because there's no trees to make the wind whisper, and it's all breaking on your body and making just like being miserable. But to me, the wind isn't miserable. I mean, sometimes it's a bit much, but I try to always see wind as beautiful because I appreciate it. But anyway, I can relate to it. Living in the Netherlands, there's not a ton of trees out here. Like, there's not a significant amount of trees, and when you do go to a forest, it probably was put there. So not being readily pleased without trees is really not an option here. So and he says later, still, even here, if I were only let alone and time enough were given, I should have all manner of pleasures and take many clear and beautiful images away with me when I left. We find many things beautiful in miniature. And that line, we find many things beautiful in miniature, really stuck with me because I think anyone who's new to Rotterdam can relate to the fact that it's definitely not the most charming city in the Netherlands, but it has so many charming things about it, because when you come to Rotterdam in comparison to Amsterdam, Utrecht, Haarlem, The Hague, really any other city, Rotterdam kind of only feels like the only massive city. So there's areas where there's like massive skyscrapers and it kind of looks like a dystopian hell, but then there's like beautiful places, and maybe there's a miserable looking block, but there's like a really great gallery on it, or a really great cafe or something. Like, there's always something beautiful around to be a part of. And once I found a few places in close proximity to me, I was like, no, yeah, this place is beautiful. I see the whole city as beautiful now. Well, except for all the gentrification. But at first, how I started to recognize the beauty of Rotterdam, I just was looking for things in miniature, like a few cafes I could go to, or a park I could bike to, or a friend's place I could visit. And eventually, there was enough that I saw that the whole picture put all of these puzzle pieces together, and it was all beautiful. And so, yeah, and that took time. And, it takes time anyway. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Like, that's not anywhere someone goes on vacation. Like, you know, most people aren't going to go to Winnipeg, Manitoba for fun. Oh, where are you going for your vacation? You know what? I was thinking of spending my hard-earned money on going to Winnipeg, Manitoba. Oh, okay. That's cool. Granted, they have a beautiful art scene. I grew up there. I thought it was beautiful growing up. I mean, I was always kind of jealous of people who lived in, like, the beautiful cities. But I had beautiful friends and a beautiful community. And my house was beautiful, and my area was beautiful. Granted, it was this, like, classic suburb life. But it was beautiful. There was a gas station down the street, and it was beautiful. It had Slurpees, which was beautiful. And I could go get Slurpees and gummies with my friends and just sit by the lake. And it was beautiful. And maybe I would go back now. Maybe I would go back now after seeing more beautiful places than that. Maybe I would go back and be like, how did I grow up with this? But I think Stevenson talks about it in the book as well. But, like, you spend enough time somewhere that is not the most beautiful, and you kind of forget about the more beautiful places when you're there, because your mind just, like, doesn't care day to day. Your mind doesn't care on the day to day. And in fact, sometimes living in a more beautiful place, like coming here, when I was looking for a place, everyone had, like, hesitant feelings about Rotterdam. And I look at Rotterdam now and I'm like, if this was a city in like the greater Toronto area, people would be all over it. It's like the context of it has so much to do with how people perceive it as well. I'm like, maybe for the Netherlands it's a weird city, but if I was in Canada right now, this would be such a quirky, cool city, you know? And people would have no hesitations. People wouldn't call it Rafa for a second when they look at Toronto. Oh my god. It's so funny they call it a rough city. To me, it's so funny because I've been thinking about going back to Toronto, and I've been thinking, like, how am I going to feel safe in Toronto after living here? Maybe it's just the area I'm in, but yeah. So I just think most of the time, it takes time. So just allow yourself to marinate, and if you're not seeing the beauty right away, let it sink in. And if you're not seeing it, or if there's not enough, then time is a beautiful thing, and maybe you can leave or something. You know, I know sometimes, as much as I can be positive about it, sometimes there's just not enough beauty around you. If you're really not in a place where you can see enough beauty at all, I guess as you work on getting out of there, just do your best to be in the spirit, to see beautiful things. And I know sometimes that can sound like a toxically positive thing to say, but at the same time, I think it's a spirit that'll help you get by when it's rough. So, and finally, this is a sentiment that I relate to more now than I ever have in my whole life, because I just decorated my own living room for the first time in my life. And so this point is, tend to your indoors. On page 56, Stevenson says, interiors are sometimes as beautiful, often more picturesque, than the shows of the open air. And that can be a different place, like, I don't know, going into a really old church and seeing all the stained glass, or like going anywhere freaking old. There's a lot of really beautiful old places. They don't do it like they used to. And then or, you know, go into a library, or go into a cute cafe, somewhere gezellig, somewhere cozy, or go into a friend's place and seeing how they decorate and what they have decided is how they're going to create a comfortable home. Or being in your own space and seeing, how have I decorated? I think after decorating my living room, I learned a lot about myself, because I was like, oh, this is what I want. I didn't even know this is what I wanted until it all appeared here at once. And it's just like, I kind of feel like I have like a grandma style. Like, I love a doily. I love an old mirror. I love a map. I love coasters and candles and old stuff. So that's nice. I just love how old stuff has texture, and you can look at it and think, this thing has had a life. This thing's wiser than me, and somewhat takes care of me. I guess that's somewhat where my mind goes. And then I like to incorporate handmade things in my spaces, or like paintings I've painted, or photos I've taken, calendars that all my roommates can write on. Apart from like your rooms, I think we can also include your fashion and your style in this. Like, what clothes are you wearing? I mean, retail therapy, there's something to be said about it. Getting a new outfit or borrowing someone's clothes and just like trying a new look on yourself can help to change your perspective so much. And when you can be open to seeing yourself as beautiful, your body is beautiful, and like really living in your body. I think a lot of the time we detach ourselves from our bodies. Like, I know when I'm in social situations, it's like you don't see yourself interacting with people unless you're in a room full of mirrors. It's like, I don't think about my body when I'm talking to people. I forget, you know, and then I walked past a mirror and I'm like, she's kind of cute, actually. You know, so just like living in your body and seeing the beauty of your body. And I think fashion helps with that. It helps me with that. So yeah, using your style. So I think it's always nice when we can find ways to customize our interiors. It's also creating these spaces and living in these temporary places. I like to make sure I'm taking pictures, because I know in 20 years from now I'll look back and looking at those pictures of my old spaces will probably be like a stamp. It'll probably bring up a lot of old memories. I think it's good to create a space that is a bit iconic, so that when you look back at pictures, it sparks your memory, it jogs your memory, and gets the synapsing and stuff. I'm really into the idea of camp, and maybe I'll make a video about that, because I'm reading Susan Sontag's notes on camp, so maybe I'll make a whole video about that book too or something. But I think it's so good to get camp with your spaces and make something extravagant and passionate and just go for it. So I've tried to be unabashedly myself in my spaces. My spaces aren't made with trends in mind. They're not. They're all me. And that's how I can feel so comfortable in them. So yeah, let me know how you allow yourself to see beauty and what you want to work on, and let me know how you make your space beautiful. And yeah, so thanks for watching this video. I'll see you next week. Let me know if you want to see me talk about camp. We can get into it. I want to do more videos that involve a bit of research, because like, it's fun to do a vlog, but after a while it's like, am I really so selfish that I can't talk about thoughts and opinions? So you know, this was really nice to make it, you know, jogs my brain a bit more than just like turning a camera on myself. So hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Yeah, go read Apology for Idlers. There's a lot more fun stuff in this book. Lots of really good imagery in this book and uplifting things. And I guess it's, at some points it's kind of written like a self-help book. Other times, most of the time, it's very imaginative. I mean, Robert Louis Stevenson, he inspired the likes of like Jorge Luis Borges, I've heard, and like a bunch of other really iconic authors. So, I mean, he's on the Penguin Books Great Ideas list. So, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. Anyway, see you next week. Thanks for watching. Leave me a like if you're so kind and beautiful. So, yeah, okay, bye.